And I know the media has said that she's a part of Idle No More, but with all due respect to Chief Spence, Idle No More began before she decided to do her hunger strike against the Conservative government. And she is the chief of a nation called Attawapaska, and it's in northern Canada. She was putting pressure on the Prime Minister to meet with her, and also the Governor General to meet with her because of the poverty and the issues that were happening on her community. And what's happening in her community is far too common. It's far too common. Even in my own reserve, the lands of my mother's people, there's high rates of suicide, there's high rates of poverty, there's high rates of joblessness, and yet this is where London has a tie to that. There are resources by the billions being extracted in our territories, and we get nothing. We get nothing. And the damage being done to our lands and the water is affecting the health of my people. It's affecting the lands. The primary people that are being hit are the Indigenous, but the secondary very quickly will be the Canadian citizens if this is not stopped. And right now, whether the Canadian citizens know it or not, the Indigenous sovereignty and the treaties are the last stand before the Conservative government devastates. And I'm not exaggerating. I don't think I'm here to invoke fear. I am very honest, considering the evidence already there in Canada with the tar sands happening and the size of those tar sands. Now there's talk of bringing in and building nuclear reactors to expand the tar sands. And to my last breath, I will do everything I can to protect the environment, and I'm not that kind of person. Before, I was happy to be ignorant and reading my books, but this scares me. This really scared me into action, and it took that, unfortunately, to do that. This is how come Idle No More is called the way it is. It's not to dishonor the previous activists by any means. It was the name we gave our chat room on Facebook. And by the time we decided to change it, it had already gone out there, and we couldn't change it. We were the ones that were being idle at the time, and we decided not to be idle anymore. So this is how come it's called Idle No More. Chief Spence has since ended her hunger strike, and she has 13 declarations of commitment that are going to be pushed forward, and they are similar to the goals of Idle No More. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep moving. See, that's I'm surprised that the media has not covered the rallies. That day, on December 10th and December 21st, there was massive rallies that were happening all across Canada, and there was hardly anything in the media. There was criticism from Canada for having a media blackout, and I know in the US there is a media blackout as well. We're going to continue, because as of January 28th, there are 8 more bills that are going to go through the Canadian Parliament that are just as devastating as Bill C-45. The only reason why we targeted Bill C-45 was it was the first bill going through Parliament, but now, as of Monday, there will be more and they all have something to do with Indigenous lands and Indigenous waters. We are going to be legislated into extinction, and the treaties are being breached. That's where it's at. And I'm here to let the London people know that the Canadian Constitution was repatriated based on the condition that Canada would honor the Crown's responsibilities. And I'm telling you, they are not. They are not honoring the Crown's responsibilities. If anything, they've outright are attacking Indigenous people on every level. And we are the most, in the most devastating levels of poverty right now. We have no means to fight. Currently, everyone is affected. On a global level, an environmental friend of mine said, if your foot is hurting, it affects the rest of your body. And right now, Canada has the most pristine waters, the most pristine environment, the most pristine treaties and everything. And if that becomes devastated and damaged, it's going to affect the global environment. We're already seeing climate change. We're already seeing acid rain. We're already seeing all of those global effects. So I don't want to think about what it's going to do once Bill C-45 is fully implemented. So we're going to continue. Our goals and objectives are to ensure the environment is protected and our inherent rights to Indigenous sovereignty is recognized, as we urge the Government of Canada to repeal all legislation which violates treaties, Aboriginal inherent rights and title, and subsequently environmental protections of land and water. And if you're familiar with Indigenous sovereignty, it's all about protection of land and water. It's all about looking for ways to live with the land that doesn't devastate it. And this is why we're looking towards Germany. We're hearing good things about their work towards working with the environment that's sustainable and it's friendly. I don't want resource extraction and the money that comes with it. I'm not here to say we want the money. I'm here to say I want my people and I want things in place that will protect the environment, that are environmentally sustainable. Again, I'm repeating that because that's so important. We're in a process, and this is part of my people's way of doing things, a way of leadership. For a very long time, women have been legislated. We've been targeted by the Indian Act. Before the Indian Act was implemented, there was a group of women called Ugititauskoak, and they were a council of women that guided and directed the Indigenous people. Those women have long been silent. We're going to revitalize them, a resurgence of their leadership. When I go home, that's my priority, is to put those women in place again. We're going to be taking training in coordinating allies, media, because I'm not media savvy. The media has a way of turning things around, so we gotta learn how to work with that. And there's other things like propaganda, misinformation, placing key spokespeople, just a general, trying to put some kind of a leadership structure in place so that people will get guidance I don't know more, because part of self-determination is not taking the European, the colonial structures and mimicking those structures, because those are the issue to begin with. What I don't know more wants to envision is breathing life back into those systems of leadership prior to European contact. I'm not saying to go back to those teepees and wearing, you know, clothing, but there are things that do not ever change, because before the Europeans came to the territories of the indigenous people, we had our laws, we had our structures, we had our way of doing things, and they worked. They did work, and those are the things that we're looking towards again. So we'll also work and focus on connecting to pressure the government, of course. So that's, I won't talk about that because it's repeating. And it all begins with you. Only a community knows what is best for them. And it's all about decolonizing. It's a part of decolonization. These are some of the impacts to the land. That's before and after picture of the tar sands. And it's getting bigger. It's getting much bigger. The tar sands operation in Canada is highly dangerous. It requires billions of barrels of fresh water per day and operates over an area larger than Indonesia. And once tar sands are drained and the land and the water left over are completely toxic and uninhabitable for life, there's talk of pipelines that will be coming through, and that's Enbridge, and it'll be going through all these different areas, and they're very dangerous. If the government continues, North America will become a large-scale disaster zone in a very near future if those pipelines proceed and they continue to build them without the consent of Indigenous people. And not too many Canadian citizens are informed of this either. And I don't know more is everyone. We tell everyone, if you drink water, then I don't know more is about you. If you want to feel a protection for land and don't want it devastated, then I don't know more is you. And if you go into the YouTube video there, it'll explain a bit more about I don't know more. Through our efforts in Canada, we woke up the world, and the real sleeping giant remains, and those are the ones not aware of the truth. So we're we have a blog. It's called www.idon'tknowmore.ca, and all this information that I talked about here is on there if you wanted to go in there and look at it. I'm going to share a quick story about a direct impact of the Indian Act. That's my brother. He was 7 years old at the time. Back in the early 1900s, the Department of Indian Affairs had a policy in place called the sugar beet policy. Those are sugar beets that you see there. And there's rows and rows. And if you see that second picture, there are rows and rows of these sugar beets. I live in Saskatchewan, what is called Saskatchewan now.